Hi everyone, this is Vital Myth for CardRunners.com. This video is a companion to an article that I wrote that circulated in over 50 newspapers on June 2nd of this year. And if you follow the URL that I've provided here through the Google shortened URL, you'll be able to pull up that article and see the basis for it. The rest of the video should do a good job explaining what I want to talk about in part 1, and I hope you'll stick around for part 2. Please enjoy. First, the background of why I'm making this video. I've had the great honor of being asked to write a bi-monthly newspaper column that runs in over 50 newspapers, including the LA Times Sunday edition, the Chicago Tribune, and the Sacramento Bee. I've written 2 articles now that have been published, and I am going to start making companion videos for all of the ones that I write in the future. And so this one is the first companion video that I'm doing for CardRunners regarding the articles that you can access through those newspapers on the Sundays that they run. This article was inspired by a session that I had with a student who's playing 25 No Limit. That is 10 cent, 25 cent online. He's someone who's in Europe and he's currently working on his game and trying to move up. He approached me and I haven't had a lot of coaching opportunities in the last couple of years since Black Friday. And so obviously I'm eager to work with anyone who wants to work with me, and I've adjusted my prices from the rates that they when they were very high when I was working with people playing higher stakes to much more affordable rates now. In the session that we were reviewing a video of him playing, he wound up having one hand where he was dealt a small pocket pair on the button against a raise from an under-the-gun player. And this under-the-gun player was just pretty much standard regular. It was the most standard of pocket pair types of spots. And what inspired me to have a discussion with him that I felt was important, and then write the article and now make the video, was the fact that when I asked him what his plan was for playing this hand going forward, he described something very fit or fold. And because his plan was very fit or fold, I explained to him that it should be more robust and account for more different variables. And that was the gist of what I wrote about in the article as well. So the points of what I'm going to do with this video today, in expanding on the basic idea of just playing better and being more thorough in general with all your hands that you play, that comes from the very short article that I wrote, are the following. 1, I want to stress that people need to think deeper. And by thinking deeper, I mean considering even small pots and rare pots, considering situations that don't come up very often, and especially considering situations that aren't necessarily trivial or straightforward to handle. Don't take shortcuts. I want to discourage everyone watching from feeling like as long as they've developed a plan that's profitable, then that's good. Because it's not. The bottom line is, if you don't do something that's optimal, then you're missing out, and you don't ever want to miss out. You want to push every edge that you can possibly find. So don't feel like you easily solved a problem by being able to come up with a profitable strategy for it, and therefore you're done. It's easy, it's profitable, it's done. Because that is not acceptable as a poker player. You need to put a lot of thought into every situation and come up with what's optimal, not what's easy. I'm also going to talk about probability. This is something that's very familiar to probably most of you watching, and possibly not as familiar as it should be to some. But I'm going to expand on the very general probabilities that people mostly work with doing equity calculations and sort of Flopzilla type stuff, calculating the probability of hitting certain flop textures and so on, by talking about natural probability, that is probability determined by the deck itself, which is what most people actually work with when they do real calculations in poker, and then probability that comes from data. This is data that comes from your databases, from your hold'em manager and things like that, that you've gathered over time that you can use to your advantage. For example, one thing we're going to look at today is the sort of average continuation bet frequency of the standard regular in your games. That's something that you can gather from hold'em manager and you can use to perform calculations. And also hypothetical probabilities, ones that you can imagine as being the frequencies with which you succeed in a bluff, for example. Suppose that you do decide to bluff in a certain situation against a certain type of player. How good are you at it? Do you only succeed 30% of the time? If that's the case, then you probably don't want to run that bluff ever. But if you're succeeding 80% of the time, then in dollar amounts, how much difference is it actually making? These are important questions, and that's why I want to work with these different kinds of probabilities. And lastly, I want to talk about using spreadsheets. using spreadsheets with Excel or OpenOffice or whatever you do is very important for making not only calculations that are really exact, but also adjustable calculations that you can use to understand a variety of situations that start with a similar beginning. And again, we'll talk about that going forward as well.